You know what really just gets underneath my skin? Just a big pet peeve of mine is dealing with slow Wi-Fi. Now, I know, first world problems, right? There's just nothing more frustrating than just slow Wi-Fi, especially when you're trying to watch a video. You know, you get that notification from YouTube that your favorite YouTuber just uploaded their new video and you're super excited to watch it and you're just like, yeah, I can't wait. You sit down, grab yourself a cold beverage, get yourself some popcorn maybe, and you go to hit play, and then you get the stupid little ring that just and it sits there and it loads and it loads and it loads. All you want to do is watch the stupid video, just all the hard work that YouTuber put into it. You just want to watch it and enjoy it, taste it a little bit, and it's just gonna Welcome back, everybody. Glad to see you. Hope you're having a good day. Chris Bazzy here, and today we're going to go through 10 quick Premiere Pro tips that have helped me become a better editor and a faster editor when making these YouTube videos. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number one, we're going to be talking about using a template. Now, if you're someone like me who uses a ton of assets in his videos, you find it frustrating that every time you open up a new project, you have to redump those assets back into there. A cool way to help speed up that process is to dump all your assets into a brand new project and then save that as your name template. And that way, when you go to dump your footage for a new project you're working on, you can just open up that template file and you're good to go. You have all your assets there ready to go, and it's gonna save you a ton of time. Number two, we're gonna talk about custom workspaces. Now, when you are looking at Premiere Pro and you're editing, that box right there is called a workspace. All right, you'll notice at the very top of the bar, it has different labels for it. So you might have, editing, and you might have color, and you might have graphics and audio and whatever. Those are the workspaces. Now, what's really cool is that Premiere gives you the ability to maneuver those panels around to make it fit your workflow. So what I've done is I've actually deleted some stuff off the side and I've made my timeline wider so it stretches the length of the screen because I like to see a bigger timeline than anything else. And then you can see that I have a project preview panel on the top, and then I have my project bins and effects and whatnot on the other side. So it's easy to do. Just maneuver, delete the things that you don't want, and then you're just going to go up to workspaces and you're going to save it as a new workspace, label it whatever it is, and then you can have it show up on that toolbar at the very top, and then you can move it to the very front left-hand side, and that way it's the very first thing that you see when you open up Premiere. Now we're going to be on to tip number three. Tip number three, we're talking about presets here. Now, if you're someone who edits photos as well, you probably recognize the term presets as a predetermined edited grade that you can stick on your photos. This is kind of essentially the same thing, but not only can you use it for color, you can also use it for audio and different effects and whatnot in Premiere. It's a very simple thing to do. Most of the time I use it for my color grade. And what I do is I get my color grade set, and then what I do is I move over to my effects panel, find Lumetri Color, right click on there and save it as a new preset. That's gonna then throw that into the presets little menu, little grouping in the effects tab. You click on that and then you can drag it and drop it on top of your footage. That's the specific color grade, the specific settings that you have set, and then you can just put that on all your video files and you're good to go. Like I said before, this also works with audio as well. So if you have your audio, you have an EQ, you have it set exactly the way you want it, what you can do is save that. You can go back to your effects control. You can highlight all the effects that you want, right click on them, make sure they're all highlighted, right click, save it as a preset, and you're good to go. On to number four, we're gonna be talking about adjustment layers. Now, adjustment layers are pretty cool. These are very handy for you to help not bog down your footage by throwing a ton of effects onto the actual clip, because the more stuff you put on your clips, the more bogged down Premiere becomes because it's trying to process all that in real time for you to be able to see when you're scrubbing through your timeline. adjustment layers help kind of ease the burden a little bit on it. And it's very simple. You just want to go to your bins, so your project bin, and then you want to either find the new button that's at the bottom right-hand side of that panel, or you just right-click, new item, adjustment layer. It's all going to be predetermined to your sequence settings. Click OK. You're going to take it, drag it on top of your timeline above your footage. And then, if you're like me who uses it for color grading, you can just slap on your color grade on top of that adjustment layer, and boom, you're good to go. Everything underneath there will be affected by that adjustment layer. Now, what's really cool is that you can take that adjustment layer and you can expand it the width of your timeline. So that way, that if you want to color grade a bunch of footage, instead of having to Control-C or Command-C and paste on all your footage, you can just apply it to that one adjustment layer and expand it across your timeline. Woo! Love adjustment layers. Number 5, well, that's actually 10, but number 5, we're talking about organizing with bins. So before you even open up Premiere Pro, here's a very, 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 very important tip. Make sure you're organizing your footage and your assets for your project. So in your computer, on your desktop, wherever, create a folder, name it your project, and then in that folder, start creating folders that are going to organize your footage. So you have a main camera and a B camera, label those folders with that, and then dump those footage in there. That's gonna help save you a ton of time when you're trying to find a specific piece of footage for your project. Okay, so once you have all that done, and then you're gonna open up Premiere Pro, and then you're just gonna dump all those folders into your project bin. Now, what that does is Premiere takes those folders and converts them into what is called a bin. It's the same thing, bin and folder are the exact same thing. Now you can just double click on them, open them up, and you can find your footage right there. That is a number 1 pro tip right there, is to keep things organized. It will save you a ton of time, I promise you that. We'll go into boop, beep, number 6. Ooh. We're gonna talk about color coding your timeline. Color coding your timeline is a great way to keep yourself organized on your timeline, but it's also a great way to be able to find specific things that you're looking for. So Premiere predetermines what specific assets get what color. So if you throw something on there, you'll notice that video and audio files might have like a blue color, but if you do like an adjustment layer or an audio effect, it might have a different color. That's great. That's a way to keep it organized so you know what you're looking for. But Premiere also gives you the ability to change those. So if you go into Edit, and then you go into Preferences, and then you're gonna find Timeline. You open that up, and on the right-hand side, whatever side it is, on the right-hand side, you're gonna see a whole line of colors and names and the predetermined general stuff that Adobe has set already. You can go in there, you can change the name of those colors. So if you want your B-roll to be yellow, you can just go down to yellow, erase yellow, and type in B-roll, and so on and so forth. You can also change the defaults as well on that far right side of the screen as well. Once you get all that settled, you get the colors that you want, then what will happen is you can go to your project bin, you can open up B-roll, for example, you can highlight all of them, right click, go to label, and then find B-roll. Once you click on that, now all those clips have been set to that predetermined B-roll color that you set. Drop that into your timeline, and boom, there you go. So if you're working with a ton of stuff in a massive timeline, you know in your mind that B-roll is yellow. So if you need to change some B-roll, if you need to look at the B-roll, you know that everything in yellow is B-roll. That right there, it's gold. That's a gold thing right there. Number 7, we're talking about Ripple Delete. Ripple Delete is a very handy, super handy tool that I actually started using recently. I actually just stumbled upon it completely by accident, and it has changed my life. It has changed the way that I edit videos. So what it is say you are in the middle of your edit, you're cutting things down, you're deleting stuff that you don't want, and now you have a bunch of spaces in between these clips, right? So normally you would just take them and drag them and butt them up against each other. And sometimes you just can't get it right, or it just goes over and it starts clipping another part of your clip, and it's frustrating, takes too much time. What you can do is you can right click in between the 2 clips in that empty space, and you will see a button that says Ripple Delete. You click on there and boom, Premiere butts them up together for you. Makes it super handy. Oh, I love that. Another easy, faster way to be able to do that is you can set it to a keyboard shortcut, which I do. So on my keyboard, it's set to A. So anytime that I'm ready to delete those spaces, I could just click on it and hit A and it's gonna delete them for me. And it just makes it so much faster for me to go through and butt up all my footage against each other. And that, my friends, is a perfect segue into tip number 8, which is keyboard shortcuts. This is the most important tip out of all 10 I'm giving you today. Keyboard shortcuts. Just like a chef has his knives and pots and pans, and a painter has an easel, has paint, has a palette of colors, paint brushes. Keyboard shortcuts are the #1 tool for an editor and for you to become a better editor, all right? So the idea is when you are sitting there and editing, you don't want to be moving around too much. You want to keep one hand on your mouse or whatever it is you're using, and then you want to keep the other hand on your keyboard. You don't want to have to take your hands off of each location and then moving it around and having to look down and trying to figure out what key you're on, because you're wasting time doing that. So what you can do is you can assign your most used effects to your keyboard, and that'll make it so much easier for you to go through the editing process. And that's very simple. You're just going to go to edit, you're going to find keyboard shortcuts. You're going to click on that, and it's going to bring you up a dialog box with a keyboard graphic on there. Now you can just go through and you can assign your keys to whatever. Now Adobe has a default keyboard shortcut that if you want to use, that's great. But for me, I have mine custom set. And you'll notice that on the screen, you'll notice that all my keyboard shortcuts are actually to the left of my keyboard. That's a pro tip right there. You want to have all your keyboard shortcuts to whatever side of the keyboard that you are using with your hand. So if you're using your mouse with your right hand, everything needs to be on the left side of that keyboard. So you just stay in one position. You don't have to move around the keyboard and look down and all that stuff. It's just gonna save you a ton of time. It's very super easy to use, very, very handy. You need to know your keyboard shortcuts. You can go out and talk to any pro editor that's working on big budget Hollywood movies, and they're going to tell you, know your keyboard shortcuts. Those are fundamentals that you need to know, and they're going to make you a better editor. Promise you that, 100%. All right, we're almost done. Number 9, we're talking about nest sequence. So we're going back to that. You have a huge timeline of working on a massive project. You have a ton of audio and video tracked, and everything's just getting overwhelming. So if you are someone who likes to work in different sections of your video, you're working on a massive project, hour-long feature film, what have you, and you want to split those up and only work on a section at a time, nesting the sequence can help you stay organized and not be overwhelmed with it. It's very simple. Just highlight everything that you want to work on first, that you want to section off. You're going to right click and you're going to go to nest sequence. That's going to consolidate everything down into 1 to 2 video tracks depending on what it is. And then what you can do is you can double click on there and it'll open up another sequence panel. You go into that, and that right there is your section of video that you highlighted that you put together. So you can just work on one section at a time. It helps to take the overwhelming feeling of editing and make it a little bit more manageable for you. And last but not least, number 10, we're going to talk about dynamic linking. This is a very cool thing that Adobe has done, and another company does this very well. So we're talking about Apple's ecosystem, right? Every time you get a text on your iPhone, if you have an iPad and a Mac, you're going to get that text on the same one, and you can respond from any other device, right? That ecosystem is solid. They talk to each other. Adobe has the same ecosystem when it comes to dynamic linking. So say you're working on a dope, sweet new intro for your YouTube video in After Effects, and you want to put that into Premiere Pro. Well, normally you would just add that to your render queue, export it as a video file, and dump that into Premiere Pro. What you can do actually is you can actually save that as an After Effects project file, and you can dump that into Premiere Pro. It's going to act the same way. The difference is any edits you make to that After Effects file is going to automatically update with that dynamic link inside Premiere Pro, so you don't have to continuously add a render queue and render and delete, and it's just so handy and helpful to be able to make adjustments one time, one file, and it'll update in there. The same goes for Photoshop and Illustrator, and I use it quite a bit, and I love using it. Guys, that's it for me today. Hopefully that was a quick one. If it wasn't, sorry, but not sorry. I hope you got something out of it. If you like this video, hey, it's YouTube. You know what to do. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.